The billionaire's manicured hand slid the thick blueprint across the glass table. "If you can solve this in 10 minutes, you're hired," she said, her tone sharp enough to cut steel. Around them, executives smirked, certain the single dad in a worn leather jacket would fail. But as his calloused fingers traced the intricate design, his eyes narrowed, not in panic, but in quiet confidence. They had no idea this wasn't just a problem to him. It was personal. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. It was a Tuesday morning when Adam Cole walked into the towering glass headquarters of Lancaster Industries. A place where security guards didn't just check badges, they checked posture. He had no resume, no appointment, and no patience for games. He was here because someone had whispered that the company was desperate, and desperation could open doors that money normally kept shut. A dozen high-ranking engineers stood in the room, all watching him like he was an uninvited intruder. On the far side sat Victoria Lancaster herself, the youngest self-made female billionaire in the country, poised, unreadable, and entirely in control. "This design," she said, tapping the blueprint, "is the prototype for a delivery system that's been in development for 3 years. My team says it can't be finished without another 6 months and $8 million. I say that's unacceptable. So here's the deal, Mr. Cole. 10 minutes. Solve it, and you walk out of here with the highest-paying engineering job in the state. Fail, and I'll make sure no major company looks at your application again." The room was so quiet you could hear the ticking of her diamond-studded watch. Adam didn't sit. He stepped forward, his boots thudding softly against the marble. He didn't ask for a pen, didn't ask for time to think. He just studied the schematic. To the onlookers, it looked impossible. But to Adam, the pattern of flaws jumped out like red flags on a battlefield. The counterweight placement was wrong, the fuel routing inefficient, and the load-bearing structure overcomplicated. It wasn't just bad. It was over-engineered. 5 minutes in, he started sketching on the back of the blueprint. His strokes were swift but precise, stripping the design down to its essentials. The executives exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't a man guessing. This was a man who had done this before. Victoria leaned forward. "You've got 4 minutes left." Adam didn't even look up. "Won't need that long." When he finished, he slid the paper back toward her. "You're losing efficiency because you're trying to make the system perfect on paper instead of perfect in motion. This," he tapped his redesign, "will cut your build time in half, and you won't need to spend more than $1.2 million. It's not pretty, but it'll work." She scanned it, her lips parting just slightly, something no one in the room had ever seen. "How? Did you even know this?" Adam's eyes flicked to the corporate logo embossed in the corner of the blueprint. "Because 5 years ago, your company rejected my design for being too simple. I built one in my garage for less than $500. Still works." Gasps rippled through the room. But Adam didn't smirk, didn't gloat. Instead, he added quietly, "Hire me or not, Ms. Lancaster. Just make sure the next time one of your engineers has an idea, you listen." That small, unexpected kindness, defending the very people who'd just been mocking him, made her pause longer than the numbers did. Victoria's pen tapped against the table, each click echoing in the conference room. Her board members shifted uncomfortably, whispering among themselves. The man they'd all silently dismissed was standing tall, his rough hands resting calmly on the edge of the glass table, as if this billion-dollar empire wasn't staring him down. "Mr. Cole," she said at last, her voice steady but lower now. "You realize what you've just done? You've publicly embarrassed my senior engineering team." Adam didn't flinch. "I didn't come here to embarrass anyone. I came here to solve a problem you claimed was impossible. Your team is smart. But sometimes, the right answer needs the freedom to be wrong a few times first." A murmur went through the room. The younger engineers in the back straightened, their eyes flicking between Adam and their boss. The older executives weren't as impressed. They looked like they were chewing on nails. Victoria studied him for a long moment. Her expression didn't give anything away, but her fingers, perfectly manicured, diamond ring glinting, paused in their tapping. "You've got grit," she finally said. "But grit doesn't mean you can work with people who despise being shown up." Adam's voice softened. "You think I haven't been there? I've been the guy with the impossible idea in a room full of rolled eyes. I've had people take my work, slap their name on it, and call it genius. I've been broke, humiliated, and told I'd never amount to anything." He let that hang in the air for a moment before adding, "But I've also been the guy who stayed late to help the same person who stole my idea because their daughter was sick and they couldn't finish a project. You don't have to like me to know I'll have your back." Silence. Pure, razor-sharp silence. Even the HVAC hum seemed to fade. Victoria's gaze flickered, just for a fraction of a second, to something more human, curiosity, maybe even respect. Then she masked it again. "Leave us for a moment," she ordered her team. When the heavy glass doors shut, it was just the two of them. The skyscraper's panoramic window framed the city beyond, all glitter and motion, while the tension between them felt like a coiled spring. "You're not just here for a paycheck," she said slowly. "Why did you really walk into my building today?" Adam's jaw tightened, but he didn't dodge. "Because I heard you were about to cut 200 jobs in your manufacturing division. Most of those people can't afford to lose them. I figured if I could save you millions, maybe you'd think twice." Her brow furrowed. "And why would you care? You don't even work here." Adam gave a faint smile, one that didn't quite reach his eyes. "One of those jobs belongs to a man who once pulled me out of a car wreck before the paramedics arrived. He's got 3 kids. I owe him." Victoria leaned back, arms crossed, studying him like a puzzle she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. "You're an unusual man, Mr. Cole." "Most of us are," he replied, "if someone actually bothers to look." For the first time since he walked in, she smiled. Not the polished PR-perfect curve her photographs caught, but something smaller, warmer. "Fine, you're hired. But if you're wrong about this design, I'll personally walk you out of here." Adam didn't hesitate. "Then I guess I'll just have to be right." And just like that, the game had changed. By 8 a.m. the next morning, Adam Cole was walking through the polished marble lobby of Lancaster Industries, this time with an actual security badge clipped to his jacket. The same guard who had scanned him with suspicion yesterday now gave him a respectful nod. Word traveled fast in buildings like this, especially when you made the CEO's jaw drop. Still, not everyone was welcoming. As he stepped into the engineering floor, conversation stopped mid-sentence. Laptops closed, a few heads bent low, pretending to be deep in work. Others stared openly, their eyes carrying the silent message. "You don't belong here." Adam ignored it. He wasn't here to win a popularity contest. He was here to prove his design worked, to keep 200 families from losing their paychecks. But as he walked toward the workstation they'd assigned him, He caught sight of a younger engineer, late 20s, brown hair falling into his eyes, frowning at his screen. The guy muttered something under his breath, then slammed his pencil down. Adam paused. "What's the problem?" The young man hesitated, clearly torn between pride and desperation. "It's a weight distribution issue on the third axle assembly. I've tried every formula. Nothing balances without throwing the whole alignment off." Adam glanced at the schematic on the monitor. "You're trying to solve it mathematically first." The engineer blinked. "Isn't that how we're supposed to solve it?" Adam grabbed a roll of drafting paper from a nearby shelf, unrolled it across the desk, and began sketching. Not a formula, but a physical mock-up of how the axle would bear weight under motion. Sometimes you need to see it, not just calculate it. "Watch," he drew quick, sure lines, pointing out stress points. Within 5 minutes, the young man's eyes lit up. That actually works." Adam handed him the pencil. "Your turn. Make it yours." As the kid started adjusting the sketch, 2 senior engineers lingered nearby, watching. Adam could feel their disapproval like a weight on the back of his neck. He knew what they were thinking. Don't come in here and play hero. By mid-afternoon, word had already reached Victoria. She appeared on the floor in her sharp charcoal suit, heels clicking softly against the polished concrete. "Mr. Cole?" she said, her voice low but cutting through the hum of work. "Walk with me." They stepped into the hallway lined with floor-to-ceiling glass. Below, the city pulsed with traffic and life. "I hear you've been mentoring," she said. Adam met her gaze. "If by mentoring you mean making sure your people have tools to succeed, then yes." "You weren't brought in to fix every engineer's personal roadblock." "No," he agreed. "But if helping one person makes the whole team stronger, it's worth my time. Unless, of course, you only hired me for one miracle." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You're testing boundaries." He smiled faintly. "I'm finding them. There's a difference." For a moment, neither spoke. Then, almost reluctantly, she said, "The axle solution you helped with this morning? It shaved 3 weeks off production time. You just saved us nearly $500,000. Adam nodded once. "Then maybe I'm exactly where I need to be." Victoria turned toward the elevator, but just before the doors closed, she looked back at him. "Don't think kindness will protect you here, Mr. Cole. In this building, it's often the first thing that gets you crushed." Adam's answer was quiet, steady. "Kindness isn't a shield. It's a choice, and I'll keep making it." The doors slid shut, but the echo of his words seemed to follow her all the way up. 2 days later, Adam knew something was off the second he stepped into the workshop. The hum of machinery was there. The smell of warm metal and oil hung in the air. But the rhythm was wrong. Engineers avoided his eyes. A few looked nervous. One man outright turned his back as Adam passed. At his workstation, the blueprint for the delivery system was gone. In its place was a single sheet of paper, red "Fail" stamped across a printed image of his design. Beneath it, in block letters, "Go back to fixing trucks." Adam stood there for a moment, reading the words. Not with anger, at least not the kind that came with shouting, but with that cold, measured patience that made people more dangerous when they were quiet. He slid the note into his jacket pocket, picked up his coffee, and got to work. If they thought they could push him out, they didn't understand him at all. By noon, he had finished assembling the revised prototype with his small assigned crew. The younger engineer he'd helped earlier, Kyle, was with him, tightening bolts with determined focus. I heard about the note, Kyle muttered. You gonna tell Victoria? Adam shook his head. Not yet. People show you who they are faster when they think you're not watching. But someone was watching. Up on the mezzanine, Victoria stood behind a pane of glass, arms crossed, eyes fixed on him. She had heard whispers all morning, rumors about sabotage, quiet threats to make the truck mechanic crack. Yet Adam didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice or throw blame. He just kept moving forward, each motion deliberate, almost defiant. That evening, when the floor was mostly empty, Adam stayed late. He was running final calibrations on the prototype when he heard footsteps. Victoria stepped inside, holding a slim folder. You've got enemies here, Mr. Cole, she said without preamble. Enemies usually mean you're doing something right, Adam replied without looking up. She set the folder on his workbench. These are performance reports from the last 3 days. Do you know what they show? He glanced at the numbers. His redesign wasn't just working, it was outperforming every projection, even the optimistic ones. Victoria's tone softened. You've saved us over $1 million already, and we haven't even hit full production. But that note you got this morning, that tells me someone's desperate to see you fail. Adam leaned back, wiping his hands. Then let them try. I'm not here to win popularity contests. I'm here because if I walk away, 200 people lose their jobs. That's not a number on a spreadsheet to me. That's rent, groceries, kids who need braces. For the first time, Victoria didn't have a ready comeback. She just watched him for a long beat, then said quietly, When was the last time someone fought for you like that? Adam hesitated, then gave a faint, almost self-deprecating smile. Long time ago. Feels like another lifetime. She didn't press, but as she walked away, her heels clicking softly, she realized she was thinking about him in ways that went beyond curiosity. And Adam? He was starting to realize that this fight wasn't just about a job anymore. It was about proving something to himself. The tension inside Lancaster Industries reached a boiling point by the end of the week. Adam had been working 16-hour days, fine-tuning the delivery system and quietly watching for whoever was trying to sabotage him. Every little accident felt too deliberate. Missing bolts, corrupted design files, mislabeled shipments. Someone was playing dirty, and they were getting bolder. On Friday morning, Victoria summoned him to the top-floor boardroom. The panoramic view of the city stretched out like a kingdom, but Adam barely noticed it. Around the table sat the board, members, suits, silk ties, and the occasional diamond cufflink, faces sharp with expectation. Mr. Cole, the chairman began, we've reviewed the latest figures. Your prototype is producing results well beyond projections. However, his voice dropped. We've also received internal reports suggesting you've manipulated testing data to make your design look better than it is. Adam froze. The accusation was delivered like a dagger in silk. Every head turned toward him, some with pity, others with smug satisfaction. He didn't have to guess where it came from. This was the saboteur's endgame. Victoria's eyes were on him, unreadable. Adam, what do you have to say? He stood slowly, every movement deliberate. What I have to say is simple. I didn't manipulate anything. But I do know who's been trying to make sure this project fails. Gasps broke the stillness. The board shifted in their seats. Adam reached into his leather jacket and pulled out a small flash drive. For the last week, I've been running parallel security logs on our system. Every time a design file was altered or a component went missing, I logged the access points. And wouldn't you know it, He walked to the presentation screen, plugged in the drive, and brought up a list of access logs. Same user ID every time. He clicked, and a name flashed on the screen. Ethan Marsh, the head of advanced engineering, and the man sitting 3 seats from Victoria. Ethan went pale. This is ridiculous. Fabricated. Adam cut him off. Fabricated? You logged into my workstation at 2:14 a.m. Tuesday and replaced my Axle configuration file with one that would have caused catastrophic failure in the field. You also had security cameras disabled for a 30-minute window. I don't need to fabricate anything. The system logs are permanent. Murmurs rippled through the room. The chairman's face turned to stone. Victoria's gaze snapped to Ethan, her voice deadly calm. Is this true? Ethan stammered, searching for words. But the silence was his confession. Security was called in within minutes. The doors shut, and the man who had run the engineering division for a decade was escorted out without a word. When the room finally settled, Victoria turned back to Adam. You just saved this company millions and stopped a disaster before it happened. That alone would earn you the position you were promised. Adam shook his head. I didn't do it for the position. He looked around the table, meeting each board member's gaze. I did it because there are 200 people whose lives depend on this company's stability. I know what it's like to be one paycheck away from losing everything. I won't stand by and watch that happen to them. The room was silent again. But this time, it wasn't hostility. It was respect. Victoria rose from her seat and extended her hand across the table. Then, you're not just hired, Mr. Cole. You're leading the entire project, effective immediately. Adam hesitated for a moment before shaking her hand. I'll take it. But on one condition. Your engineers get the resources and freedom they need to do their jobs, without politics strangling them. A small smile touched her lips. You drive a hard bargain. He smiled back. Number I just make the right one. As the boardroom emptied, Victoria lingered by the window, watching the man who had walked in days ago as a nobody and dismantled her doubts piece by piece. She didn't say it aloud, but she knew. She'd never met anyone quite like Adam Cole. And Adam? He walked out of that building into the cold afternoon air, knowing he hadn't just won a job. He'd changed the course of 200 lives. The kind of win no paycheck could match.